Oh man, this is an absolutely legendary chapter where we get Loki's Devil Fruit name and insane details revealed about it. We get Ragnar's Devil Fruit details revealed. We get important information about Joy Boy and the God of War in the Void Century. Emu, Summers getting his just desserts. Sanji, Zoro, Luffy greatness, and more in this awesome chapter where an insane number of my predictions actually came true, as we'll see. So hyped to talk about that too. If you enjoy watching One Piece reviews like this one on the channel and want to keep them coming, channel Parking Within, and smash that like button to let me know. Make this the video you join the Knock if you haven't already by subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss future One Piece reviews and updates. And now, without further ado, let's jump into this glorious chapter. So excited for this one. So briefly, last chapter was also epic, being called the strongest thing in the world. Epic title right there. And although giant Gear 5 Luffy appearing on a way more giant Loki dragon was hype beyond belief, the chapter was so powerful mainly because of the emotional lead up to their appearance. The parents and family realized they couldn't save their kids from going off the cliff, so they decided they're not going to let them fall alone. Despite the thorns, they were going to hug them and go down with them, and they did. Ripley and Colin was a beautiful moment, but the others stood out just as much. Like the kid who was sorry he said his dream monster-worthy mom was the scariest, and she dropped the gem saying, "That's fine, darling. Sometimes mama needs to be scary to keep you safe." Then there was the girl who had no parents to hug her, but Angie, who before told her could be like a mother to her and got rejected by the kid, came in and hugged her like a true parent in the end. Even Road had his moment to shine as he came in and hugged his little brother who made fun of him before, being prepared for the end. Oda did some top tier heartstring pulling that chapter, and the whole time you have Summer's over the top expressions of joy and laughter as he relishes in the pain he's inflicting on all these people. So I was saying last chapter, we need a satisfying moment where this monster gets his just desserts, and thankfully Oda is going to give it to us real quick, probably quicker than we even expected. So that brings us to this chapter with the very hype title Nidhogg. Now, if you've been watching this channel, you know why that's super hyped to me. You know that this is the exact guess from the beginning that I had for Loki's Devil Fruit. And the first time we saw the fruit in, like a half silhouette or something, most people in the comments actually guessed Fenrir, the giant wolf. But so hyped that my prediction actually came true here and that it was the dragon Nidhogg, but more on that in a bit. The chapter starts with Sanji releasing Robin from Summer's vines with Diable Jambe. He can just kick and destroy the vine. Pretty crazy given how much trouble they've caused, but it serves to hype up one of our monster trio, so I guess it works in that sense. And you gotta appreciate Sanji coming to a lady's rescue. Nothing is more Sanji than that. Then you got Loki and Luffy taking the kids and their relatives that they've rescued with Loki's giant dragon form to the western village near where Yarul is. Yes, Oda waited until the complete last second to have them rescued for maximum suspense, but man, was it an epic rescue when it actually happened. Summers, who was the happiest we've ever seen any character last chapter, is now furious because the plan was thwarted. And so, being the terrible monster he is, he decides to deal with this by shooting thorns at the guardians of the children, be it their parents, relatives, and so on. Keep in mind, they are still very injured because even if they didn't fall to their dooms, they had thorns puncture them all over their bodies, like straight through. It was brutal to see how the thorns just went through Ripley's body last chapter. Since the relatives are so beat up, the children decide to line up in front of them to stop the thorns. Not gonna work, obviously. Definitely not what the parents would want, but you gotta respect the bravery there and them trying to repay their relatives in their own way. Ripley screams to Colin, saying, "Please, Colin, run." But Colin says, "I won't. I will protect you, mommy." Of course, Oda won't let them get hurt after everything they've been through, and we get Zoro showing up to the rescue. He is just in time to block all the thorns, so Luffy, Sanji, and Zoro getting some epic moments in this chapter on top of everything else. We are getting peak One Piece right now for sure. Luffy praises Zoro, saying, "Good job, Zoro. I knew I could trust you," and then he laughs. Zoro says back to his captain, "Figured that's what you had in mind. Now do it." Summer says, "What the heck? Who is that?" In an epic moment, Luffy says, "He's from my crew and his name is Zoro. Don't you forget that." Love to see Luffy talking up Zoro, no matter how much Zoro deserves it, as usual. Love the Nakama love either way. As we've seen him do before, Luffy then grabs a lightning bolt from a cloud with his left hand and uses his right as a telescopic sight to hone in on Summers. Then Luffy launches the attack I've been predicting and waiting for all this time. The attack name is not even that important, but I'll mention it because it is a new one, or to be more specific, a Gear 5 powered up new version of an old one called Gomu Gomu no Dawn Thor Rifle. It can be translated as White Thunder Rotating Bullet as well. What's most important though is that we get that Luffy punching a Celestial Dragon moment for Summers. In an epic double page, Luffy's giant fist savagely hits Summer's body and electrocutes him at the same time, which is what the lightning was for. After all, just giant punching this man would not be enough after all he did. The attack is so powerful, in fact, that Summer's body breaks into pieces, and we see how Summers loses his teeth as his face splits into several parts. Summers finally got his just desserts, and how sweet it is to see. But wait, Oda knows after everything he needs to suffer even more. So in another epic double page, I love how we get 2 double pages for getting even with Summers, or revenge, I guess. We see this crushage followed up by giant dragon Loki stomping on his torn up body. Love to see it. Then we get a little flashback of what happened when Loki left the castle after he ended Herald. Yarul explains what the fruit Loki ate was to Scarper and Shanks. Proving the theory right, he says Loki ate the dragon fruit mythical model type Nidhogg. Whoever eats it will obtain the form of the world's largest dragon. However, the limit to how large one can get wielding its power is dependent on the user's original size. And so, compared to a human, a giant can draw out more of the fruit's potential, and an ancient giant can draw out even more potential than that. At its largest, this thunder-breathing, pitch-black dragon is said to be able to turn day into night when it takes flight. Now that is an epic, mythic-worthy description right there. Reminds me of that epic line about arrows blocking out the sun and the Spartans just fighting in the shade. But crazy to think that even if a human ate this fruit, they would be bigger than Kaido in his dragon form. And here we have the most magnified version possible of it. But again, the reason I thought the Nidhogg fruit worked so well back during chapter 1170 was because if you dig into it, it seems clear that Ragnar the Hammer was the Ratatoskr mythical fruit, a squirrel that runs up and down the world tree to carry messages between the eagles above and the serpent or dragon Nidhogg below. Nidhogg is described as a fearsome dragon who gnaws at the roots of the world tree and symbolizes chaos and destruction, which I thought even then would fit Loki perfectly. The creature is also associated with the darkness and the underworld, which is where we met Loki too, so that was my guess with the evidence we had at the time. It also works on a symbolic level because the Norse dragon who gnaws at the world tree represents decay, erosion, and the destructive forces always at work in the world, even against things that seem indestructible. It plays a key role in maintaining the cycle of life and death by ensuring that no structure, no matter how divine, is immune to time and entropy. Sound familiar? Now this applies, in my opinion, beautifully if he joins Luffy's fight against the immortal Emu and the seemingly indestructible world government system. Drop a hashtag Nidhogg for Straw Hat in the chat if you watched this far, and if you're as hyped as me that Nidhogg ended up being the devil fruit. Back to the flashback, and Shanks asked, so you guys decided to forbid anyone from eating it due to how dangerous the power is? And Yarul replied, no, that is not it. If one attempts to eat it, the guarding hammer Ragnar will interfere. In Elbaf, we have a legend regarding a warring deity, and this stuff is getting interesting here, who is said to wield the weapon Ragnar. They say he turned into a gigantic dragon and went against the sun god, and beside him was his trusted servant Ratatoskr, the ice squirrel. So there we are. Ragnar possessing the Ratatoskr fruit was right on as well. Back to Yarul, who adds, when the warring deity died, Ratatoskr's spirit passed into his master's hammer. And ever since, Ragnar has protected that devil fruit until someone powerful enough could inherit it. So huge interesting information dumped there by Oda, which raises a lot of questions in and of itself. But this seems to confirm that at least some devil fruits were real people or things before they managed to carry on their power, and as we know with zones, their will through becoming devil fruits. And I don't know if becoming is the right word for it, but you get what I mean. In some way, putting their essence into the devil fruits like the sun god fruit. I especially like how the squirrel who fought with the god of war not only passed on its will via fruit, but even merged with its owner's hammer at the same time. And the fact that it's an ice squirrel clearly shows that the ice powers we've seen are probably associated with Ragnar rather than Loki's Nidhogg fruit, which was a question raised when we saw Loki freeze and then smash a dream monster in a previous chapter. We also see this scene of the sun god and the god of war fighting, and this time importantly, it's not just a silhouette or doodle, which is an interesting choice for Oda, who usually depicts the sun god in that way. What's more, the sun god from then looks identical to Luffy today besides his sword, shield, and loincloth. Now the question is, why did the sun god and the god of war fight in the past? Was it kind of like Luffy and Loki being on less than stellar terms at first before joining up, or is it possible that Nidhogg was actually on Imu's side in the past? And we'll get more into it as Imu comments about Nidhogg later. I would assume if he actually was on Imu's side, it was the work of Domi Reversi and not his free will, but we will see. Either way, one of my predictions has yet to be tested. I believe Luffy's Drums of Liberation will be able to free people from Imu's mind control influence, so if that's true, a Domi Reversi'd Loki wouldn't be an issue for long. Either way though, I hope Luffy and Loki are on the same team from here on out and together proceed to kick some Imu butt. Back to the present, Loki is focused now on the dream monsters in an epic double page, and yes, I know this chapter is full of them, thank you Oda. Loki shoots a massive lightning attack from his mouth called Thunder World, because clearly everything a creature so big does affects the whole world. Like you could literally call all of his attacks something world. The attack creates a huge explosion with normal and more importantly black lightning and destroys most of the dream monsters. Absolutely crazy to see Loki's actual power at work here. And again, I don't think we really saw him push to his limit or anything, so this is just the warm-up. We then see Imu/Gunko looking at Loki, Luffy, and Ragnar as dream monsters are vanishing, obviously teasing the big clash between these two superpowers that's about to happen, although there will probably be a round 2 where Imu fights in their real body at full power, even if Luffy beats Imu Gunko. And speaking of the real Imu, we jump to Marijoa, where the real Imu is standing in the room of flowers, and we see Imu's furious eyes in the last panel of the chapter. Imu says, "I see, Nidhogg. That's where thou have been all this time." So even if Imu knew Elbaf had an important fruit, they didn't know exactly what fruit it was. And clearly Imu knows it from before, which is not surprising after what we heard from Yarul. Either way, I look forward to learning more about Imu's relationship to Nidhogg. The fact that their eyes were furious suggests that Nidhogg might have been their enemy in the past. Although I must say, if the supervillain of a series was to have any creatures or favorite pets, Nidhogg would definitely be a good one. There's also no break next week, so make sure you like and subscribe so you don't miss that when it drops. Let me know your thoughts on this chapter. Did you know it would be Nidhogg? What is Imu's relationship to Nidhogg? And why did the sun god fight Nidhogg in the past? Anyway, those are some of my top questions. But if you did enjoy this one, then YouTube says you'll also like this one linked on screen right now. Like and subscribe for more One Piece, and I'll see you next week for the next one.